Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here. Happy Thursday to you and your family. Hope you're doing very well, contrary to the market conditions right now. This is fairly expected considering all the FUD that we have earlier in the week with that extremely long speech from Powell, but also, just generally speaking, profits are being taken. We're coming up on a support level here. Hopefully that will hold. Unfortunately, previously the 22,200 didn't hold, and we are now testing the 21,500 range. Now it's technically 21,400, but 21.5 is kind of a round number, easy to remember. So that's essentially what I'm mentioning there. And again, if you take a look here, previously you can see right there at 21.5 we had the most amount of support, and we're currently below that. Once again, this candlestick hasn't closed yet. Try not to overthink things, but it's absolutely liquidation hunts if we look at smaller time frames and identify that. We'll take a quick peek at HyblockCapital here in a moment, but just want to let you know, generally speaking, that's kind of what we're looking at there. And again, heads up if you're new to the channel, not a financial advisor. I truly just love teaching people how to trade, and I've been trading and teaching for over 18 years now. So really awesome experience. Be sure to check out my website, cryptocash.tech is the site, link down below if you're interested in becoming part of our community. We also have a tremendous amount of sponsors, specifically Bybit right now offering a actual competition here later in the month. So make sure you use my link to register, or if you want to become part of that, you send me over your user ID and I can get you added to the roster to essentially make sure that you can benefit from that, okay? So let's take a quick peek here at at some of the charts here, all right? So first of all, let's go with the daily first of all. Let's kind of draw out the situation here. So right now, as we can see, fear, uncertainty, and doubt is lowering, okay? So the FUD meter's going lower, basically just telling us there's more fear in the market now today than there was before, because obviously we're in that last line of defense mode here, because if we lose this area, the price will continue lower, okay? Or potentially continue lower, because we got kind of a double bottom or double top, however you want to call it. There's some patterns here that you could read into that could imply the price can come down further. That being said, that in conjunction with a lot of the crazy crypto stuff going on this week, that it's not looking great in that sense. So a lot of folks are selling and kind of buying into that fear and kind of scared to buy, okay? So there's a great chance that this could continue. You got to be ready for it, right? But if we take a look at smaller time frames, we can see some positive signs. Okay, so we look at the 4 hour, for example, open interest is increasing. That's typically a good sign. Now again, it depends on if the price goes sideways or up from here. Honestly, if we close closer to 21,300 or 21.4, might be a different story. But generally speaking, we are in a situation right now where the fear has increased in the most recent trading day. So basically, since the market opened this morning, the fear has been higher. And interestingly enough, traditional markets are not doing terrible. They're pretty much drawing dead or breaking even, slightly up by a small margin. So generally speaking, it's just, it's an interesting situation. And if we take a look also too at liquidation levels, or at least just liquidation longs, we can see a lot of liquidation occurred here in the last 15-minute candlestick there, over 1.3 million. And this is an aggregated, okay, so keep in mind, this is across majority of all the exchanges, and you can see that there's a lot of volume and a lot of liquidation that occurred right here at the 21,500 mark. Okay, so again, this is a liquidation hunt. This is very common, very typical in trading. Okay, so be mindful that the price could very well turn itself right around based on that sentiment, because they've taken all their profits, now they bought in at a lower price. Price goes up, they sell again. It's a very greedy cycle, but unfortunately, if you understand that, you can use it to your advantage. Actually, it's more fortunate that if you understand it, right? But it's unfortunate it happens, and that's just kind of the way that it goes, right? Greed is a very consistent thing. So that being said, regardless of that situation, what we want to look at is some overextension here, because there are some positive factors here, right? So if we take a look at the time frame, let's go ahead and start with the daily. I do usually recommend monthly or weekly reviews. I've covered that a lot recently, and generally speaking, we're bearish, right? There's no other way around it. So, and keep in mind too, when I say bearish, just generally speaking, the short-term time frame here, the immediate future, we are going down, but there's a great chance that'll turn around. Try not to, attach yourself to that philosophy. We talked about that in our trading, our roundtable discussions yesterday as a community, and we really came to the conclusion that it's ideal not to, adhere to a specific direction, especially if you're day trading or anything that's less than basically a shorter term trade. You want to kind of focus on the right time frames and not worry too much about the overall momentum. But it is important to acknowledge that we are moving down right now until we stop. And hypothetically, we could continue, but at this point, we're in a situation where there's a lot of support. Let's talk about that. So TD sequential, first of all, this is one of my favorite indicators, and really just helps us understand overextension, right? So if you've been moving in a specific direction for so long, it's going to continue counting up or down. In this case, we're counting down to an 8. What that basically just means is this candlestick is lower than the 4th previous candlestick, right? So it'll continue to count to a 9 or further, obviously, if it were to continue past that point. But once you hit a 9, that's commonly an overextended or a type of overextension, right? Now, keep in mind, this cryptocurrency, there's no guarantees, obviously. We had a 9 here previously, and the price shot up for 5 days straight. Okay, so there's no guarantees that it'll work, but commonly you see a 9, price comes down to a 9 here, the price will usually reverse itself and turn itself around because there's only so far in either direction that you can go as a bull or a bear to be able to, buy or sell, right? Because keep in mind the price is going down because there's a lot of selling pressure and there's not a lot of buying pressure, but too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, right? So in this case here, at an 8, we potentially have one more day worth of price action down, and then potentially it increased. Now that increase could be as simple or as low as 22,200. It might hit that resistance and continue lower. We don't truly know, because again, this trend line here, we probably want to extend that out a little bit further, because there's a good chance that we're going to stay within that range for the moment. Okay, so we're probably going to be range bound between 21,400, 22,200 in the immediate foreseeable future. Just because the price hits a 9 doesn't mean it's going to recover, and nor does it mean it's going to shoot up like it did before, okay? That doesn't necessarily happen all the time, right? So keep in mind there's a lot of situations like that. Also, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt is extremely high right now, which really, unfortunately, is kind of playing on top of what happened recently. And that's the main reason for it. A lot of stuff's going on, the fundamentals aspect of cryptocurrency. So be sure to familiarize yourself with that. We're going to have some fundamentals coming to you here in the very near future as well, with my admin essentially being able to provide that for you. So regardless of that fact here, when we take a look here at Bitcoin, we see we're overextended to the downside. We probably have another day or two's worth of continuation, potentially 3 or 4. That can happen, but likely the price will plateau or bottom out here and could continue, right? We kind of got this ugly double bottom coming up here. All right. Regardless of that fact, RSI is tapering off, coming down closer to 36. We're not quite at 30 yet, but statistically, anytime Bitcoin comes close to 30, it will inevitably bounce and continue higher. Now I'm referring to the RSI itself, not necessarily the price, because you see here, the RSI came down to 30 and the price slowly tapered up. It really didn't do too much. So we could very well see a month or two worth of sideways action here. You never truly know. But once again, RSI coming down, there's a decent chance we could see a bounce or the price effectively controlling itself and coming up from there. Okay, so again, just something to be mindful of. Unlike yesterday, as we can see here, the MACD is starting to diverge further. So this does tell us there's more momentum coming in and that potential further downside might be likely. What we also want to acknowledge is the fact that we are still below all moving averages, well, minus the 200, of course, that's averaging itself out at 19,800, which coincidentally is that area in which we saw the actual CME gap. It was roughly about 2 months ago, but there was a CME gap that hasn't been filled between 19,800 and 20,500. There's a good chance that could get filled here if this continues lower. I don't foresee that happening immediately. I do think we're going to have somewhat of a relief rally, whether it's up to this resistance or the next. But generally speaking, I don't think we're going to see that kind of price point right now. That's just my speculation. Based on us being extremely overextended, there would be no major reason for it to come down. No, correction. It would have to be a major reason to come down. In other words, some kind of crazy fundamental catalyst to push the price action lower. Like an FTX issue, for example. Those things can occur and pushing the price in a crazy, crazy direction. So keep in mind, we have some support here. I think there's a decent chance it holds, but once again, we lose that level, pretty much anything could happen. I just expect a retest of the 20,000 range, the low 20,000, to fill that CME gap if we lose this level. That's my anticipation. Taking a look at the 4 hour though, let's quickly just kind of summarize here. We're now officially under 30. Okay. Now it doesn't happen too often on the 4 hour time frame to come under 30. As you can kind of see here in its history, it's fairly rare for Bitcoin to do that. In fact, coincidentally, and this is just the most recent past, as an example, the price came down to a 9 on TD sequential here, or is it hitting a 7, 8, 9, that range? We can see the RSI was under 30 at this point and continued higher. Okay, so hypothetically, we get 2 or 3 days of consolidation at this level, RSI continues to progress upwards, concurrent with the price. That would be ideal, and that would be a hopeful scenario. Again, hopeful is probably not the right word to use because you don't want to hope that things will work out the way that they could, because that's not good trading. But generally speaking, that would be the general concept, right? Hypothetically, at this point, it would be best for you to not take a trade. We want to wait for confirmation, wait for the price to break, stay above this level and not break below. That's essentially what we're looking for. So to my community, if you're watching, obviously, we kind of gotta wait to trade a little bit here because patience is important. We want our trades to kind of come to fruition. I'm confident they still will, but at this point, it's one of those difficult scenarios that you really, truly can't anticipate. You got to kind of wait. Unfortunately, a lot of the news, this is all news right here, right? That's negative news in the market. It takes a little while for that to wear off, okay? So anyways, that being said, that's kind of where we're at there. MACD's diverging too, so honestly, in all reality, the 4-hour looks terrible, but there is also a saving grace here too because we are insanely overextended here. So if you take a look at this, you can see we should have turned around right here, but nope, we had more fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market pushing the price action down, and there's a lot of greed that came in here and a lot of liquidation hunting. Okay, so again, based on liquidation, what we've seen on HyblockCapital, there's a lot of liquidation at specific levels. In fact, if we come up here, we can see massive amount of liquidations at the most recent time frame, but also right here at about 21,300. Okay, so that is an important level to hold. The good news is, with that being a large amount of liquidations, basically people are adjusting their positions at that level. That tells us that there's a lot of support there too. So to me, liquidation levels are more of a support indication, and I think that we should acknowledge the fact that there's a decent chance it doesn't go any further here unless there's some kind of nonsensical news that comes out right now immediately that pushes it further. From a technical standpoint, it shouldn't go any lower. It wouldn't make any sense from a technical standpoint. Once again, overextended. We're in about 7 or 8 4-hour candlesticks into this continuation. So we're literally 1 to 2 days overextended to the downside. It wouldn't make any sense to continue lower. Again, just from a technical standpoint. Fundamentals, you never truly know. Those are just crazy, funny, weird things. All right, so taking a look here, last but not least, we can see 8 on the hourly, and then of course price comes down to 7, and now we're resetting again. So we're hitting pretty consistent overextensions to the downside. And once again, this kind of just tells us that we are obviously pushing a lot further than we need to in this direction. Last thing we want to look at would be the cloud, and this just confirms that if you have a short position open, you do want to keep it open. And obviously, it isn't telling us to take a short position, by the way. You never take a short or a long into an extreme overextension. That, to me, makes no sense. Again, you can get lucky once in a while, but this is a recipe for disaster. They're trying to get the late shorts, the people that are shorting now, into a trap, and they're going to just blast them with some liquidation hits again when the price shoots up. It's a crazy game that they play, and they're always wrecking a lot of retail traders. So again, keep in mind, this is just a trap. I feel as if we should be able to see the price come up. It's likely a bear trap, unless of course we close a couple of days in a row below that level of 21,400, 21,300, that range there. We'll have to wait and see. Another reason why patience is important right now. So when things are extremely downside here, it makes a lot more sense to take a long position. Again, just thinking in the outside. I'm not saying to take a position. In fact, I recommend waiting. But if you are the kind that has to insist on taking a trade right now, it would make a lot more sense for the prices to recover than it would to decrease further, because we're so far overextended on almost every single time frame. That to me is just a recipe for success to the upside. Now, keep this in mind, a lot of alts are doing moderately well today. And that's a good sign considering Bitcoin's down 1% testing a key level support. Obviously, we lose that support, different story, but the fact that a lot of alts are recovering implies that they are overextended as well. I mean, take a look at some of these overextensions. It is no joke. The prices are way lower than they should be. So it's pretty much a bargain in almost any sense of the word. Again, just something to think about. Consider, using good risk management and risk tolerance, of course. Those are things I teach in my trading academy. So again, if you want to become a better trader, cryptocash.tech is a site where you can essentially learn to do this yourself. I do have signals where you can kind of follow along, kind of get some guidelines there. And in truth, a lot of those signals, a lot of those longs, they are not giving us profit right now. And that's the way it works with swing trading. That's exactly why we're bringing day trades to the community. So here in another, I would say, month or two tops, we're going to have a new feature essentially for our members to essentially allow for you to have day trades as a feature. Okay, so really awesome stuff. Be sure to check that out. Again, cryptocash.tech is a site if you want to register for that. Look forward to work with you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there. We'll see you in the next one.